The police might now be watching you through Ring cameras at any moment, whenever they want. And this is the result of a kind of change in tone of what the people of San Francisco want for surveillance. Originally, San Francisco was one of the first cities to vote to ban facial recognition, recognizing that the technology was flawed and also could lead to false convictions and other problems when it was inaccurate, and that there was really a very low bar for what was being considered acceptable. And this was having a big impact on people's rights. So they voted to make that not a thing. But then immediately, a couple years later, in response to a small rise in crime, or at least a perceived rise in crime, decided that private citizens' cameras could be connected to by police with permission initially, but then afterwards, they could revoke that permission at any time, but the police would maintain the ability to just basically join these cameras or record from these cameras whenever they want. And the process for this is supposed to be transparent. There's supposed to be logs kept, but really there's no standard spelled out for this. And we've seen this sort of thing abused so many times that you better believe that if somebody thinks their spouse is cheating on them and there's a security camera that's someone's private Ring door camera that's right next to an address they think they might be going to, that police officer might find an excuse to start looking through that camera, because we've seen that exact scenario happen with these more advanced tools. It wasn't that long ago that somebody was indicted, I think also in San Francisco, for going through a bunch of tracking and cell phone tracking data, looking for where their ex had been going. And then when they got caught, contacting their ex and asking them to give them written permission to surveil them retroactively. So these sorts of things really do happen. And expanding that surveillance platform to be any random citizen's Ring doorbell or any random camera that can connect to the internet is, in my opinion, a real problem, because it means that, once you give permission for the sort of thing, the barrier to somebody getting access to that data and maybe processing it. For example, you can read license plates from a lot of these cameras and use them as an automated license plate tracking system, which, would probably be able to infer a lot of data about where people are, where they're going. This sort of addition to the database that the police have access to could really easily be abused by processing the data in more invasive ways. So I'm not super excited to see this. And knowing that you're never really sure if you're being watched by the police through like a private security camera is also something I find very sketchy.
Yeah. Well, and also what's really concerning about that whole industry is the fact that even when they do recognize the flaws with it and try to put rails in place, such as a case a couple back where the company had it where you had to submit a search warrant before you could gather the data, but then they weren't validating those search warrants. So there was a corrupt cop who was literally uploading blank PDF documents as search warrants, and then they weren't checked in any way. So then he was gathering all this data, I believe, about like friends and coworkers and all this. And it's just really disturbing, because you would hope that there would be more safeguards in place on this sort of thing, because, the Constitution, at least in the US, protects against unreasonable search and seizure. And kind of, I think a lot of people assume that means like unreasonable surveillance. But I guess, that's not always as protected as you might imagine.
All right, so that's all the news we have time for today. If you have a question, please make sure to leave it on our YouTube channel, and we will answer it live on our Wednesday Q&A next week with either Michael, our cryptozoology expert, or Alex, our prototyping and hacking expert. A big shout out to Veronis for letting us do this stream every week. If you like it, make sure to comment on the LinkedIn, the YouTube. Let them know that you like the stream, and we will keep doing it. All right, we'll see you next time.